Hello, and welcome to Kathy's Eclectic Garden. I'm Kathy, and I garden in Zone 6A in Northwest Ohio. During the next few weeks, I will be talking about plants that you should consider adding to your 2024 garden to attract pollinators. Your flowering plants and vegetables benefit from the pollinators in your garden. In fact, without pollinators, your plants would not produce any fruits or vegetables. In other words, these plants are good choices to add to your garden if they grow well in your hardiness zone. So let's dive in. We weren't able to post a video last week because we had other obligations. April is our county's 200th anniversary, and I am the unofficial event photographer, and my husband's on the committee to coordinate activities for the celebration, which began last weekend. This week I'm talking about Aquilegia coerulea, commonly called Rocky Mountain Blue columbine. It's a native wildflower, and as you can probably guess from its name, it's native in the western United States. It is also the state flower of Colorado. There are more than 70 species of columbines, and the deep blue ones that grow in the mountains of Colorado are descendants of the earliest columbines. Rocky Mountain Blue columbine starts to emerge early in the spring. Here is mine this year on April the 19th, and you can tell it's been growing for a few weeks. Most sources I've found state that the plant blooms from April to May, which may be accurate for its native area in the west. The first year for my plant was 2023, and it bloomed from May to July. It appears to be trending towards that cycle again this year, but we shall see. I have noticed that many of the first-year natives in my garden bloom longer than normal, and in the second year the plants appear to reset and bloom when they're supposed to. Eastern red columbine, or Aquilegia canadensis, is native to the eastern United States. This variety grows in another area of my garden. The flowers are just starting to open, and if you watch closely, you'll see tiny specialist bees buzzing around the plant and flying into the flowers. This is a fourth-year plant, and although resources state that this plant reseeds prolifically, I only have 3 new plants from this original. Reseeding can be deterred by deadheading before the flowers go to seed. Columbine doesn't like to be crowded, so be sure to leave plenty of room between other plants. This Rocky Mountain Blue columbine bud is just starting to open on May the 27th in 2023. Hardy in zones 3 to 10, they grow 1 to 2 feet tall and wide in full sun to part shade. They aren't picky about soil conditions, but they do grow best in well-draining soil. Columbines appear delicate, but they are one of the hardiest native plants. They are pollinator friendly and rabbit and deer resistant. They attract butterflies, bees, moths, and hummingbirds. The flowers of Rocky Mountain Blue columbine are strikingly beautiful. They have upward-facing bicolored flowers up to 3 inches across, and 5 pale to sky blue sepals and 5 white petals with bushy yellow stamens in the center. 5 long spurs hang from the calyx at the base of the flower and contain nectar at their tips. Columbines are a member of the buttercup family. The name columbine comes from the Latin word columba, which means dove. The common name granny's bonnet is attributed to the flowers looking like an old-fashioned bonnet. Here is a pale yellow flower from last year's garden. Flowers can be variable in color from pale blue to white, pale yellow, and pinkish. It's very common for the sepals to be a different color than the petals. I've found this to be true with my Rocky Mountain Blue columbine, having flowers of different shades on the same plant as shown here. The flowers have an interesting appearance with different forms and shapes adapting over long periods of time in the diverse areas where they've grown. This close-up shows how nature can sometimes throw us a curveball. Look closely and you'll see this flower has 6 petals instead of the usual 5, as I stated earlier. The flower size is dependent on the species and individual variety as well as the plant height. Most plants grow 2 to 3 feet tall. This flower is almost pure white with just a hint of purple on the tips of the sepals, an excellent example of the diversity of this species. Flowers grow on multi-branch stems and can be erect and pointed upward or nodding and pointed down. A side view displays the uniqueness of the flower. Some flowers have thin, elongated spurs, while others have broader, shorter ones. Nectar is contained in the spurs. Only pollinators with long tongues can easily access the nectar in the long spurs. That would be pollinators like butterflies and hummingbirds. However, short-tongued pollinators have learned that if they cut a slit or a hole in the back of the spur, they can still get to the nectar too. Here you can see the different stages of flower development on June 5th of last year. The unique leaves are medium green and sometimes have a burgundy hue around the edges. A beautiful clumping appearance is created with a mound of leaves that will look good in the garden even after the flowers have finished blooming. The unique three-lobed leaves are easily identified, which comes in handy if you allow the plant to reseed. Columbine is ideal for a prairie garden or cottage garden setting. This video, shot on June 18th last year, shows one of only 3 flowers left on the plant. You can see the seed pods forming around the flower. Columbine has a set blooming period depending on where you live and what variety you are growing. You can extend the bloom time by deadheading the spent blooms. This will prevent the plant from creating seeds and divert energy into more flowering and plant growth. Once columbine is established in your garden, it requires little to no maintenance. I've not experienced any pests or diseases on any of my plants. However, in my research, I did find that columbine could be affected by leaf miners, leaf spot, powdery mildew, root knot nematodes, rust, or southern blight. Only 1 flower remained on the plant by July 7th. You can see the seed pod beginning to turn brown in the background. Once the seed pods turn completely brown, they will release the seeds back into the garden. To prevent reseeding, cut the stems back to the ground before the seed pods turn brown. You can collect the seeds and plant them in other areas of your garden or buy seed of specific varieties that you want to grow. If planting from seed, the seed will need to be stratified to aid in germination. You can plant the seeds in the fall and they will stratify over the winter naturally. You can also winter sow them in milk jugs. If you start them indoors in the spring, you will need to manually stratify the seeds. I'm not sure why these twice-stabbed stink bugs were on this seed pod. They didn't appear to be causing any damage. Maybe they were just tired and stopped to rest. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Go grow some columbine. Thanks for watching. Bye.